Lovely. Thanks everyone for joining to talk about the survey, which is hopefully reaching kind of final stages. Marathon effort. So we've got an agenda for today, and I'll just take some calendar invite. We had a couple of actions from previous meetings, one of which was that's complete, which was me to circulate the authorship kind of rules or kind of suggestions which have been suggested by other ISCET groups. I've not received any objections to those. Others in other groups have been fairly happy to accept them, so I'll assume that those have been those are acceptable to the group, but if they're not, just let me know by email. And then the other action was for the group to review and comment on the figures. So huge thanks to Fiona for getting the results figures together, along with Matt and Daniel. They've done a great job kind of pulling all that together. So as far as I'm aware, that action's been complete because they've been working on those. I note there are a few comments on like the final version, but it looks like we're at the tidying up stage rather than the main stage of getting all those together. And then one thing we'll discuss today is about kind of numbers of figures and what to prioritise. And then the final action was just a meeting record to go on the ISCET website. So thanks to C1 and Matt for doing that. Okay, so there are previous actions. So on the agenda is for a decision on authorship rules. So I'm just assuming everybody is happy to accept those because I've received no information to the contrary. Yep. And then the next agenda item is to review the manuscript with a focus on the discussion section. So Matt's made a big start on pulling that together. Onyeka, I see, has also commented, and I've made a start on that as well, although I've not finished. So that's the main kind of part of the manuscript that needs some discussion.
Yeah, every time once I delete the link from my to-do list, I can never find it again. Would you be able to share the link?
Yes. Okay, sorry, it's just taking a little moment. Okay. So it's getting to the stage where it's got so many comments on it, my brain can't cope. But I guess we'll get to the stage where we just kind of accept everything and share maybe a cleaner version for people to have a look at and comment on. So we're still in like a working draft at the moment. So the discussion starts. Oh, Onyeka's here. She able to join? Hi, Onyeka. We're just recording, just so that you know.
Hi, everyone. Good morning.
So the discussion for me starts on page 18. We've got some kind of main points that have been added in. Matt's made a start. I'm kind of adding some bits and bobs here and there. I think my main concern about the discussion is that I don't just want to repeat the results. And I'm not really aware of much evidence that would be appropriate to compare some of this to. So what I don't want to do is just kind of restate the results in kind of written format, because that's just going to be too repetitive. So I think if anybody's got some suggestions of appropriate literature to compare this to, please add those in, or just suggest those in a comment. But I guess the problem is for us that we haven't really had any of this information before.
Would we compare this to some of the initial stuff with ISCET? So thinking about like where they started with standards and those sorts of pieces?
Potentially. I mean, ISCET started in 1957, so it's going to be hard to pull out any comparisons from how things were for them. But I think it's a fair point. The other thing I guess you have to think about is that this is not primary. I mean, okay, the study's being run by ISCET. We have to wonder whether do we want to make this an advertisement for ISCET, or is this just a general survey? Yeah, I don't know. Well, can you expand on that a little bit, Amanda, in terms of?
I'm just thinking like we've followed so much of their model and we're looking at it like, I'm wondering if they do have any historical documents around why they started, what the thought process was when they started there with some of it. We're obviously looking at it going, what's the need? Was there a needs-based question early? Because I think when we talk about like things to compare to, that's been the main group that we've compared to the whole way along. I do think the discussion of this, it would be useful to kind of go, here is ISCET and this is sort of where we're going with it in that kind of conclusions and future directions piece to it. And we're using their model. So I think that's where some of that might also come into it, but I don't know if they've got historical docs or other pieces. And then I think it is just touching on where there is guidelines available and other pieces to kind of go like, people have said this, but these things are available, or where they're not, kind of highlighting those gaps.
Yeah, okay.
That was my thoughts, but yeah, I'm sorry, I've got a small child, so I'm jumping back and forth.
Yeah, we haven't got anything in here about existing guidelines at the moment. Actually, maybe we have now. Maybe that's what Gemma's added, actually.
Yeah, I'm just kind of adding some notes as you're speaking.
Yeah, the one, by the way, the Dunn et al. 23, that's not clinical guidelines. I realise people maybe misinterpreted them as such, but
yeah,
not clinical guidelines.
Well, when I did the lit review, I did find, as much as I could of existing guidelines. So I was going to take a run at this as well. It just, similar to Gemma, it was a bit overwhelming with the structure of it now and all the comments and so on. I think a clean version would be helpful.
Yeah.
But I could add relating back to that, to sort of even just point out what does exist and what's missing from the point of view of the purposes of this article.
Yep. So you had that in the introduction, did you? You had some. Sorry, that.
Yeah, I mentioned the Irani guidelines and things like that.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've done it as well for the nystagmus, where some might be relevant.
Yeah. I guess. Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say the other thing. I did have a read through, and the other thing was just. I don't think all of the figures are cited here, which, there were several versions of basically the same information in some of them. But maybe, some of the tables and so on that I made could also be useful, including there was a question, should we say how many responded and so on? And I had that final table that shows the breakdown of respondents that could maybe be usefully added. So I'm happy to take a run at it, but I wanted to ask if I could make a clean version, and if that could maybe be LaTeX, or does the journal that you're aiming for have a LaTeX template, was my question.
So I'm fully in support of a clean version, or at least a significantly tidied up version for people to look at. I don't know in terms of whether they have a template. I can
search can you just remind me of the journal name?
So it's Documenta Ophthalmologica. My other point about the journal guidelines is that they, for original research, they have a word limit of 5,000 words, 6 figures and 50 references. So we're obviously over on figures and over on references at the moment.
How many references? Sorry?
It says 50.
Okay.
It does, and we're in the 70s.
Yeah, and there's
it
more.
It does say for a review article, 70 to 80.
Okay.
And I guess it's whether kind of feels like, yes, this is research, but it's more than a review. It's a bit of a hybrid in my mind.
I was going to ask what the limits were for review, actually, because I think you could argue that it is a review since we go through all the existing guidelines.
We could ask, I mean, remember this journal, Documentary Ophthalmologica, is actually the one that is run by ISCET. I don't know, it won't be Ruth herself. I think there's somebody in ISCET who's kind of in charge of managing the journal, but we can definitely talk to the editor easily enough.
It says Daphne McCulloch.
Could you send? Could you post a link to the journal? That would be really helpful.
I've just put it on the chat, and they do have a LaTeX template as well.
Okay, great.
So, I mean, how are we at the stage where it's probably better to know from an editor-in-chief now about word limits, figure limits, references? Because we don't want to spend hours trying to trim things down if they actually would be happy with a...
It's probably in the template.
The guidelines, you know, there's a full list of guidelines, and I guess, yes, they have a limit to the number of figures, but they also say you can use supplementary information. So I think for a study like this, a lot of figures is probably better than, you know, a few figures. So we can just put them into there, I should think. But yeah, that'd be great to resolve that.
That might be quite helpful for some of the tables, Fiona, where you're talking about that extra information as well.
Yeah. There's always a little bit of word bingo to hit the limit, so I can have a run at it.
Okay.
Maybe just mark clearly in the manuscript what can go into the supplementary information, and then we can just agree that they're the right things to put there.
Okay.
And main points that you want to emphasize in the article.
Matt.
Gemma, in the last main ISCET meeting, we had some discussion around which tools to use for jobs like this. So Google Docs versus Overleaf. And there were pros and cons to both, really. Mostly the issue with Overleaf is lack of familiarity by others. But I would suggest maybe this would be a good opportunity for us to try using that and see how that process goes. I know myself and Fiona have used it before. Siwan as well was involved in a paper, and Rasha, you have as well, of course. So Kath here have used that before at least.
Okay.
So.
We could include also a little need to kind of help people orient to Overleaf. If that would be helpful.
Yeah, I mean, if there's something we can do, just to, this can go forwards for future subcommittees as well. Part of this is still the learning process as to how these subcommittees operate and how best for ISCET to do its business with lots of people involved. So if there's something we can use to kind of orient people to using it, that'd be great.
So what I might do then is, if I just kind of keep this in Google for now, but create a more tidied up version that is then saved in Google. And then once we've got that tidied up version for kind of sharing with everybody, we'll go into Overleaf. I mean, I've never used it, but I'm happy to give it a whirl, and I'm happy to shout up if I need a bit of guidance on it. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say that what we can do in Overleaf is just comment out what is a comment, and then the PDF, will generate in a tidy format, but the LaTeX version will have all of the comments exactly as they are now. So
okay.
So I don't think you necessarily need to add the step of tidying it up before moving it across. I think it could be done in the move, because to comment it out, you just literally put a percentage sign at the start of the text, and then it won't generate into the PDF.
Okay, fine.
So if you want, I can move it to LaTeX and share it with you, and then you can decide what to do from there. Because I already have, for example, the bib file and all of the figures and things I already generated in LaTeX, the PDF that I shared. So it means the bib file and the figures and everything are already there. It's just moving the text.
I guess because you're familiar with it, whatever is the simplest and more straightforward way to do it.
I think if we move all the comments and just comment them out, then we also preserve the conversation, you know, and can check back to see what people were saying, rather than not have them there.
Okay, that's fine.
That makes sense.
Fine. Just making some notes so I don't forget. Okay, so are we happy then that we're kind of making comments on the new version in Overleaf as to which figures to, I guess it's how much is for discussion now in the group and how much is just people looking at the document and working on it? What do we think is the best use of time?
I guess, is there much difference? Like, is there anything where there's comments that are going that actually need to be kind of resolved and talked about? Or are they all kind of going the same direction? I think it's the conflicts that need that group discussion.
Yeah, okay.
Well, I have an opinion, but I'm thinking out loud because because not everyone was actually involved in the analysis. So I think keeping the Google Doc for now, because seeing comments and progress would be nice if for example, if I want to catch up with the discussion, sharing in the discussion, and maybe we would then our final version, we would just move it to Overleaf and then put our like final for everyone. Even we have other authors that have shared in the survey, you know, making, but they're not active now. I think we're going to share also with them. So I think at this stage, that's how I see it, because it might take time to transition now with all these open comments. Or what do you think?
A lot of these things on the document at the moment are actually suggested changes. So in Google Docs, you can either make a change or you can suggest change. So I think quite a lot of these will disappear once they're accepted.
Yeah, and I think for the results, there was obviously Amanda and I Amanda made a start and we were talking about how best to present it. So there were a lot of comments about how we group things. That conversation's kind of moved on, and will probably, some of that will be replaced by the figures that have been created. So I think the results will naturally tidy up, which I think is what Fiona's saying, like when she gets her hands on it, a lot of what's been created will be replaced in there. So the main section that's under development really is the discussion.
Yeah, and the results in terms of the figures and the small bit of very dry text that describes how, how they're produced, that's already in Overleaf. I only made it in Overleaf, so everyone has been commenting on the PDF produced on that anyway. So I still think you can, Overleaf does have a comment function too. I think Overleaf is better at handling these suggestions and commenting in and out while still preserving a clean PDF along the way, so that it's easier for people to just read.
Yeah. Well, I'm happy to move on to Overleaf. I think yeah.
I'm a bit like Rasha. I've not really got much experience with it, but if you feel like it's a better way forward, because all I would do in Google is make a copy of this and then start accepting comments. So to track back, you would then just have to look back at previous versions. So if you feel like it's easier, happy to do that.
Well, just by way of explanation, when you're in the overleaf, would it be helpful to actually show you something in overleaf on the screen and just kind of talk very briefly through how it works?
Yeah.
So it's not going to be this paper, but just by way of kind of orienting. So I'll just try and share screen.
Well, actually, if you have the results on overleaf for this paper, we can have a look on it if that's easy.
Right. But the results are not structured like a paper. It's just one straight through.
You're right.
Let me see. Well, I could show the nystagmus one.
Yeah.
One sec. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet. Yeah,
Yes.
now.
Okay. So this is the PDF on the right here. Sorry, I'll just close this. Where everything shows up as clean text. And you have a folder over here on the left where you have all the figures. And to cite the figures, you just have something like this where the actual figure name is given. And in here, you can also have comments. So if I want to comment on something here, I can highlight it and just hit the comment button and it'll appear here. And if I want to, for example, remove this whole paragraph, then I would just put a % sign in front of it and hit recompile, and this paragraph won't be part of the PDF. So you can add notes both as comments, or you can just add them inline in the text and comment them in and out as you go. And when you have citations to make, this is a citation. So you just write this and it'll compile, to go, if I'm in here and I want to see this exact paragraph, I just hit this right arrow. And if I'm in here and I want to see this exact paragraph, I just hit the left arrow and it shows me. So it's very easy to navigate between the two panes. Just click on where you are and look at it over here. So yeah, so when you're citing something, like in this paragraph, you just have to write the code for whatever paper it is, and it formats it in whatever journal's formatting style you've got in the overleaf setup, which would be ready when people come in. And all the references are just held in their own file that looks like this, which is what something like Mendeley or even, I think Word can even produce this kind of bib file, which is where all the references are. So essentially you can either work with the PDF right here, which is always clean, or you can work with the main text in its own sort of uncooked version here on the left, where things can be commented, things can be, you know, removed from the compile or added back in. And I have it here so that I'm viewing code, but you can also take a view that's more like Word in here when you click on visual. So if you want to avoid the code-based interface, you click on visual and you get something that looks very like Word. And you can also edit here using these functions just like Word. And then you get your outline here to navigate. You can have a review panel, you can chat in the interface and it'll keep a record of the chat and so on. So I think for a lot of people who maybe are coming from Word and aren't too familiar, this visual interface is preferred. but it doesn't really matter in terms of what appears in the compile window. So that's it, basically.
Thanks, Fiona. That's really helpful. I mean, it's quite a different setup that I'm used to. I guess our main thing now is getting it, if we're going to move to that for next, do we have to create an account, or how does it work for?
No, I think it's free up to a certain number of articles.
Okay.
So I do have a pro account, so like I can make it and then just share it. You might need to make an Overleaf login, but you don't have to pay for it unless you go over a certain number of articles.
And in terms of moving the Google Doc over, do you think that would be okay also? That might just need you and I to be on a call and make sure that transfers okay.
Well, if you saw this kind of, it depends on the template, which I've just downloaded. So their template will set the correct citation format, the correct everything, basically all formats that are allowed. And often the template may separate introduction and abstract into separate chapters, and that's a possibility. So but I will just copy the text across into whatever that template is, and then it should compile. I'll share it with you once it's compiling properly, so that nobody who's unfamiliar has to take on that job. And then it's really just about copying what's there. Like if you want to cite something, you just use the same command that's there with the citations, and otherwise it's just straight up text editing. And you also can't really break anything. So I know from working with others when they were on their first Overleaf, especially with medics who maybe don't use it that much, there was a fear, oh, I've done something wrong, and now it won't compile. But you can't actually break anything, and there's a full history. So maybe that's worth just showing briefly the history function. So when can you see now?
Soon.
Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you've got this history function right here, and it shows you who's edited what the whole way through, right from the beginning of the document. And you can click on any of these and say, restore this version. And you can also click on any of these and see what exactly was edited in each time frame. So if you hit restore this version, it just goes back to whichever version you want in history. So from that point of view, it's very stable and secure.
So I'm now dreading being the first person to break it.
I think you should do that immediately as your first task. Just get over it. It's not possible to break it. It's really secure. You just go to a previous version and click on restore, and you're back to where you were before. And it's fully documented, so you can see exactly what changed, and just reverse that edit.
Okay. Rasha, did you have your hand up there? Sorry, did I miss? No.
I had something, but I forgot. But the important thing, I forgot it. But then I do remember the less important. But I think the main tip is to remember to compile because it doesn't automatically save, and Fiona would correct me. And the PDF, we see the PDF, but we can't comment on the PDF. Like it goes into the other part. And thank you, Fiona, for showing me the visual, because I didn't know it existed. So that's very good. But I think there isn't a download like version like in Word. Right,
Sorry.
we download the PDF, but can we download the either the code or the visual version?
Yeah, sorry, I should have showed that. So first of all, if you wanted just the first question, let's say I wanted to comment on this text here, this last sentence. Can you see it?
Yep.
So I just double click this and it'll take me to exactly that place here. You see that?
Mhm.
So wherever I double click, it's going to take me to exactly that paragraph. So then you can just highlight whatever you want and you can put in your comment right there. And to get so it doesn't matter. You don't have to remember to compile. You don't have to compile at all. It's just that the compile updates what you're viewing into the PDF. But anyway, everything that you do here on this side is saved automatically. And if you want to download the PDF, you just hit this download button.
Yeah, but we cannot download the text itself, either the code or the visual. Am I right?
No, you can download the whole PDF. So whatever the current version of the PDF is, you can just download it here.
I guess if you wanted the code, you could just copy paste it into something on your computer. But
oh, you can also
Yeah.
go to the text file and right click
Yeah.
it here and download if you want.
That's the one. Thank you.
This will only open with LaTeX.
Okay.
You could copy paste into a text editor if you wanted to. But essentially, you know, if I have, like, I can write a comment if I go out of this view into code. So here now we're back in code. And if I want to write a comment here, I can just put a percentage sign and say random comment here. And this will stay on the left side, but it won't compile over here because it's commented out.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, because I haven't been familiar with it, but I've worked like on a couple of papers on this, coming from the medical field with zero like familiarity with this. It did take a time to get, so I'm a bit like, but it's not hard. But maybe we need to see how many of us would be fine with, especially embedding the figures. For me is like, and the references that take time to know how to do it, but it's doable. But the figures and the exact location of the figure, I mean, someone would be in charge and for the final versions, but I guess it's okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. And like I said, all of the references that are in there already are ones that I exported from Mendeley into LaTeX and then compiled and then copied across into Google Docs. So the references are already in LaTeX. And what's nice is that when you remove a reference or you comment out text that has a reference in it, then the appropriate reference is just removed from the reference list. And all of the references are automatically properly formatted. So for me, working in Word, you know, things like formatting tables and formatting references and all these things take a very long time. Whereas in LaTeX, they don't take any time at all. So all of that would be in there. And actually LaTeX will find the best place to place a figure. Like if you have a large figure that takes up half a page and you have called it in the middle of a couple of paragraphs, it will find the place to put it that means that you don't have white space. So it'll kind of automatically make those decisions so that the formatting is right. So it's very robust. You can really put this stuff anywhere and it'll find the right place within the journal's style guide.
Yeah, well, figures, we had a little bit of problem in the figures when we were finalizing for ETRA, and we found the final version did the figures. There was a blank page, but I'm happy that you're gonna take over. It's easy for you, but it's good to know that you're an expert on this. Now I remember the important question. So the regular overleaf would allow only a few persons to edit at a time, to give them the editing option. I think it's only 3. So
no, that's any number of people can edit once the host has the pro version.
Yeah, that's why I'm telling you it's good that you have the pro. So then we're gonna depend on that. But for other groups, then we have to have someone who has the pro. I'm just whatever I I pumped in using Overleaf. I'm trying to mention. So that was something. But yeah, but good we have you.
Yeah, what you're referring to is at the same time. So
Yeah.
you still have 10 people editing. It's that the non-pro version limits whether they can all edit at the same time. So if they all happen to be online editing at the same time without the pro version, that's an issue. But I think in practice, it rarely happens that everyone is online editing at the same time.
It's not only at the same time, even if, because you just give permission, so you are allowed to give permission for editing. I guess when we were 5, we couldn't all have permission, so I had to switch, like to allow permission. This person would finish viewing and then the other one. So yeah, and that's something just for notice. But we don't have this problem at now, so we don't have to worry about it.
Onyeka, do you want to come in?
Yes, briefly, quickly. Thank you, Fiona, for showing us the program. And I was initially scared that it will be easy to break something, but I'm glad that you've reassured us that nothing can be broken. I haven't used it before, but I think it's the earlier we start to get used to it, the better it will be. And since you have assured us that it will be more efficient to put in all the changes, then I'm happy to go with it. There's one thing I wanted to confirm is if we start to use this program, is it something that we can do everything online? You see both the code, the Microsoft or the text version, the PDF version, or is it something we have to download the program? I don't know yet if my investor will let me download it in the system. So I'm not sure if everything can be viewed online to edit.
It's
So
all in the browser.
Sorry?
It's all in the browser.
Oh, I see. Okay, because
No,
the previous figures were PDFs. The ones you shared initially were just the PDF.
Yeah. So that was downloaded from Overleaf as a PDF. But
Okay.
everything in Overleaf is just in the browser. There's nothing to download. And
Okay.
I just checked on the Overleaf documentation, and there's no limit on the number of collaborators who can be editing.
Okay, that's good. All
I
right.
put a link in the chat there.
Okay. That's all.
Matt, you had your hand up, but it's gone back down.
Oh,
But
it
do you
was
want to
just-
come in?
I was just at the time Russia was saying about pricing and so on, and whether this would apply to other groups. Personally, I'm actually pretty convinced this seems to be the way to go for large collaborative projects. And in time, ISCET might be able to fund this, as an organisation thing, because I can just see the benefits of the transparency, the attribution of authorship, and the fact that you can't break it, And I have some very limited experience with LaTeX, and yeah, there is a learning curve, but I think the thing is you have to learn just as much to use Word and so on. And as Fiona's pointed out, there's a lot of clunkiness with Word, which this does get around. So I think it'd be interesting just to get when everyone's actually doing this, just please make a note of any thoughts you have of pros and cons, because we do want to feed this into other groups, and if you find difficulties, then say so, because we can then hopefully come back to the large group and say, look, this might be a tool for us to use for everything, or not.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think it's new for me too, but happy if we think it's ultimately going to make these final stages of preparing a manuscript less painful, the whole references, adjustment, figures and tables. We've all spent days of our life sorting all of that out in Word. So if we think that is going to save us some time, I'm happy to try it. So it sounds like that we are going to move the document. Oh, Fiona.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it costs about €30 per month, something like that, the pro version. So that's the most expensive version. So it's not a huge investment for an organization to have.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good point also, that ISCET would invest in that. That's good. Yeah. That's definitely, it's a worth of it. So move. It's yeah.
So it sounds like our actions from today then are we're going to move the document as it is now into Overleaf. Fiona's going to add the figures and kind of get the results section a little bit more tidied up. Matt and I will continue to add to the discussion, and probably Fiona as well, with some of the previous literature that she's identified from the introduction section. We'll have a little look at what literature is appropriate from ISEV and possibly some of the ISCET documentation, what's relevant to bring into the discussion. And then once we've got it as kind of tidied up as we can, I think at that point, we'll probably email this group and encourage people to go and look at it at that stage. Right. I know Rasha talked about going wider, but it was my understanding that we were just kind of trying to keep things within this group for that step. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah, that's good. Did you want to come in, Matt?
Yeah, just to say, is there anything else we want to make sure we cover in the discussion? We've talked about the summarizing the results, limitations of the study. I think maybe it would be worth putting something in about repeating it at some point in the future. And then, the discussion, if there's any kind of agenda we're trying to push here, I mean, we're trying to make this as descriptive as possible. And I think as a large group, it's better to try and keep it to that. But is there anything that people would like us to cover in here if we haven't already?
I actually think a future aims recommendations kind of section is probably a really good idea, actually.
Okay.
I'll just... Yeah,
just so we've got something to work around. Otherwise, we're just going to be fleshing out what we've already got. But
yeah,
that was pretty much what the discussion normally has in most documents. And sometimes, it's like, is there anything else we want to be talking about? I mentioned earlier about ISCET generally. I suppose we want to mention that the ISCET exists, but I think because we're the ones creating the document, I don't want to go too far into that, because obviously we have a bit of a bias in that respect. In terms of saying the ISCET is here and so on. So I would maybe avoid that.
Okay.
At least to a great degree.
Yeah, I'm happy with that. I think we'll just have that as it probably naturally follows on after the limitations, doesn't it? Like what the future aims are before we then have a conclusion. Probably need a conclusion section.
Oh, that's what you were putting down.
Yeah, sorry.
We're both typing the same thing. Got it.
No problem.
Great, that's fine then.
Okay. Is everybody happy with that?
Yeah.
Can we set some deadlines? Is that worth doing?
Yes, better.
Yeah, I mean, it's good for me.
Mm-hmm.
Now's been a bit of a hectic time. Fiona, it sounds like if everything goes smoothly, she says, touch wood, that actually the move shouldn't be that problematic.
It should be fine.
Okay.
I like I said, I already have the figures and the reference list and so on in various overleaf docs. So for me, it would be great to just get a copy of the notes that you're making and a list of who I should invite to overleaf with the email address. Maybe some of you use a different email address for overleaf than you're using in these email lists, in which case it would be good to have your overleaf email.
Yeah, which kind of brings us around also to the authorship. There are a number of people who are kind of officially in the group that haven't attended any meetings or really contributed. So the rules on authorship would kind of not include them in the final manuscript. And there are a few people that did say, if you invite me, I'll come if there's something that you specifically need me to come to address, but this is not my, you know, I'm happy to like dip out at this point. So
it's probably worth reaching out to those people that wouldn't fall under the scope, just to inform them and to suggest that if they wanted to, then maybe they could be more involved at this point, if you feel like that's appropriate. Just so that it doesn't happen unexpectedly. But if they're not actively contributing, I don't think they'll be surprised. But let's not forget what people might have contributed earlier.
Yeah, so what I could do, you see, is summarize, send round to the wider group notes from this meeting with the list of actions, and the list of actions is to move to overleaf, and for anybody who considers themselves to be includable in authorship to specifically let. So I guess, Fiona, they've probably got to let you know what their email for sharing with overleaf is. Is that how it would work?
Yeah, and I might suggest, Gemma, just that maybe when we have it in overleaf and we can actually generate the PDF, we could attach that to the email saying this is the PDF in overleaf. It will show the current authors according to the rules. So then we could also, you know, say that we voted on the rules for authorship and agreed them, and here they are. And then say we're still open to adding more authors if they contribute at this point, and if they want to contribute at this point, to join the overleaf. Or something like that. I think just having the compiled document and authorship as it is now in that email could be good, so they can see what they would be contributing to. Or what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. Rasha, do you want to come in on that?
Well, yeah, I agree with Fiona and everyone that we would send the overleaf version for the rest of the authors. We're speaking about the rest of the people in the survey subcommittee, right? Just to be specific. But I remember, because our committee is kind of because it went into stages. So I remember that while making this survey, Gemma, you had a table at the end of the survey with the authors, and even we took I remember maybe full authorship institutions and stuff like that. So and some people were thinking together, like some people did comment at that stage and maybe contributed in the final versions of the survey, but then we haven't seen them, and there are other people who haven't been there at all. So maybe the people who, and I'm not sure about this in the authorship rules, like the people who have shared in making the survey, I think these ones that we would actually also ask them, this is the final version, and have a look. But whether, if they do or not, are they anyway included? That's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah, so there's probably, I'm looking at so thank you for reminding me about that table with your institution. I still have that. There's probably kind of three or four that I've got in my mind, possibly five. A couple of those people have been involved along the way as and when they could, and have commented on various stages of the document. So I would, following the rules of the authorship, I would say they are to be included. But I think for a couple of them, they would potentially not meet it unless they came back to us and said, I feel like I should be included. I don't want to upset anyone.
No, it's a difficult one, isn't it, at this point? The authorship rules also had in there specified time periods for getting back to you on revisions for documents. So that might be a way of sort of checking that they're still engaged. I just wanted to raise the issue of the first and last authors. Now, to my mind, anyone else step in if you think differently, but Fiona and Gemma, the two of you, I would say, have done the most by a long way. I'm happy for the rest of us to be down alphabetically, but obviously that's for others to discuss here. But I feel like the two of you have contributed the most. That's my view anyway.
I'm happy to go with the majority decision on whatever people feel is best. Siwan?
Yeah, I think we should add an acknowledge section because some people actually devoted effort to disseminate these emails in constructed these survey questions. I think we should acknowledge their contribution to the survey. Yes, although they didn't participate in the analysis, and I think that we should acknowledge their contribution.
Thanks, Siwan. Totally agree. Thanks for that. Fiona?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we could also circulate the PDF without any authors listed and just say authors to be decided and see who gets back to us.
Yeah, that can come later. It's just nice. It's nice to have an idea, though, isn't it? Before the very end.
I think as well, the suggestion of please let us know if you want to be able to comment in Overleaf. I think that will naturally create interaction with that document.
Yeah. So Gemma, if it's useful, I can convert it to Overleaf. It'll take a little bit of time, but it only has to be done once. And then share it with you. And then maybe we can like compose a mail that includes maybe some basic instructions for getting into it in Overleaf. And say, just state what the authorship agreement has been in the group, and ask people to comment and go from there. So we could share it without the authors listed yet, with some instructions of how to get in, and ask for people to let us know what their email address is if they want to be added.
Great.
Good.
Do we want to, and then once we get to that stage, we probably need to give people about a three or 4 week kind of deadline for commenting on it or editing it. Are people happy with that?
I would suggest if we can push towards edits rather than comments, because comments always end up leaving it in someone else's responsibility.
Okay.
We could give an intended submission date.
Yeah.
And that kind of makes it clear, like we would want comments 1 week before submitting or something like that.
I think we can be at that point now, really, that if we all focus on it, let's just push towards the final submission date.
It would be great to get it submitted before everyone breaks for summer holidays. I don't know if that's realistic, but for us in Scandinavia, in July is a dead month. There's nobody here, so.
So does that mean you want to submit before then, or?
I mean, it would be great. I don't know if it's
time,
realistic, but I think it would be great to get it off before everyone breaks for summer. Otherwise, you could make it after July, but it's fresh in our minds now. And
I don't see why not. I mean, it's the actual amount of time involved is relatively small. It's just making sure everyone's got the time to actually look at it within their own schedules. But I think to me that seems reasonable. And if people can't, then they can always speak up and say, actually, I need more time. And that's
yeah.
Is there any objection to setting that final deadline midway through July? Sorry, I'm just conscious that we're in the middle of winter. We're in exams at the moment, and then we'll be gearing up for semester 2. So we don't have a huge break there.
Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. No. It's fine. It sounds like we are all thinking of within the next 3 months for submission. So I think if we can keep working towards that'd be, obviously this is going to come back with comments anyway. So I think we just work towards submitting in kind of July would be perfect for me.
great.
right, if you're so, do you mean 3 months or do you mean July?
I meant like the 14th of July. I just meant not before the end of June is kind of, where I was saying with that. Yeah. Give me an extra week or 2.
Do we aim for mid-July, and then if it ends up being pushed towards the end of July, it's not the big problem, but we because there's bound to be something that comes up, but if we can try to.
Could we aim for end of June for sort of final comments and pieces for everyone and give ourselves that little extra bit in the beginning of July, I think?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we'll wait to hear from
end
you,
of
Gemma,
June.
with what comes next. So Fiona will make this adjustment to the document, and then Gemma, you'll let us all know what
Yeah.
we're doing when by when.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right.
Is
and
that
if,
okay?
yeah, if everyone could send me whatever email they want to use for Overleaf once they've made an account, that would be really helpful. Because I can, Gemma, for example, if you wanted to join now, you'll be able to see me moving the stuff across and putting it into format, but I can still give you a signal when it's ready.
Yeah. I'm going to do that today. I'm going to write that down.
I don't know.
Make sure I do that today. Okay. So we are creating Overleaf accounts and letting you know our emails for that.
Great.
Thank
Great,
you,
thank
everyone.
All right. See you soon.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.